Everybody. We're going to get started here. My name is Sue Cross with Cross Strategy. I do business development and communications for mission-driven organizations, both companies and causes. We have a fabulous panel for you today. They will introduce themselves in a minute, but you basically have two medical doctors who are using media to communicate with patients as well as traditional medical practice. We have a two-time New York Times bestselling author here for her trifecta, we hope, today, the launch of a new book. We have, including our author and Natalie, TV people trying to make health information more engaging and really get people involved beyond just reading or listening. And then we have two very interesting people from the nonprofit world, one using platforms and technical and media platforms really to connect journalists and medical experts in ways they haven't interacted before, and someone using really a media interface to try to improve health for incarcerated girls, a very underserved population. So we're coming at this intersection of media and tech and health today from all kinds of different directions. And I think you'll find it a really interesting discussion. So I'm going to ask our panelists to start by introducing themselves, not just their names, but really what brought them here today. Some of it you can guess from the program, but some of it not entirely. So Jenny, would you like to start us off?
So my name is Jenny Hake. I'm an obstetrician gynecologist at USC. I'm the division chief for general OBGYN, and I'm a co-founder of Health Goes Female, which is a website that provides healthcare information for women. There's also an adolescent version of that, the Health Goes Female Teens, where we talk about things like just general health, puberty, relationships, self-esteem, and for the women's side, very similar, minus puberty, more menopause and things like that.
My name is Dr. Preeti Parikh, and I am a practicing pediatrician who's a clinical assistant professor of pediatrics at Mount Sinai and an American Academy of Pediatrics spokesperson. And I'm here today because I'm the chief medical editor of Healthy Nation, which is a digital media company where we create content, video content, that not only talks about conditions, but we provide toolkits on fitness and nutrition and really want to engage and empower our consumers to take charge of their health. So we have a website, but our model is also a distribution model. So our videos are found with our partners such as Yahoo, AOL, Scripps, and we get 1 million views a day for our content. So it's a very big passion for me to get quality health education out there and provide tools for patients. So not only to learn about the condition, but what they can do about it. And if they don't have a condition, just to be healthy and active, what they can do. So very excited about talking about this product today.
Hi, I'm Leslie Akoka. I'm the president and founder of the National Girls Health and Justice Institute. I'm a psychotherapist, but I function primarily as a researcher, advocate, and media person on behalf of the 500,000 girls between the ages of 10 and 17 who get arrested, all wearing, it turns out, pink shackles when they're arrested. That's the only concession to their gender, and who enter locked facilities where their health insurance is removed at the point of incarceration. We are the only evidence-based health screen for this population of girls. And we deliver our health and mental health screen on an iPad or through iPhones. And we create continuity of care where there really is none for the youngest and sickest of the so-called mass incarceration population. We view it as critical for all women's health care because these girls represent our future, and young women of color and the lack of access that young women of color have to existing medical resources. So I'm delighted to be part of this amazing group.
I'm Jackie Warner. I'm a health and wellness expert. And I wanted to sit down with these women and hear what they had to say because I'm very passionate about the subject. You know, in a time of hyper media and hyper consumerism, it concerns me that we have so much misinformation out there about the body, about health and wellness, about what builds self-esteem and what does not. So it was exciting for me to be here and kind of discuss and speak to those issues today. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Natalie Barandes. I'm a content creator, executive creative director, and I come from the entertainment industry, and I'm very excited to be a part of this panel today. And I'm currently working on a project bringing health and wellness information to people that are insured by a large insurance company and employees of large corporations. It will be a solution for weight loss through the education and information and engaging content that we create that will be available on multiple different devices. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Sue, for inviting me to join this really interesting and stimulating panel. My name's Michelle Lavander, and I'm coming from the USC Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism, where I head up a family of programs, one of which is called the Health Journalism Fellowships, where we train reporters from all around the country and help nurture big, ambitious journalism about projects, health issues that are of relevance to their community that could range from things like, who's getting covered and not covered under Medicaid to the violence that is now plaguing this city of Baltimore. I've been thinking a lot about the project one of our reporters did about childhood trauma and that can result from living in a neighborhood that's racked by violence. And so we're helping support that journalism. But the project that we have that I'm speaking about today is called Reporting on Health. And really what we're trying to do there is to bring together a very diverse group of voices and to provide an opportunity for them to exchange ideas. So we're talking about journalists, health policy people, and medical professionals. And the idea is that through exchanging ideas that are either locked up in a research lab or are maybe part of someone's really innovative clinical practice, to get these ideas out and to have people talking about the practice of health journalism and how it could be better, profiling stories and issues, and getting a great conversation going.
Great, thank you all. What we're going to do is talk for a little bit around three themes today, really about how media and tech are being combined to provide high quality and credible information, these creative approaches to getting people engaged in their wellness and health. There's a lot of movement in that area. And then the kind of continual innovation that's happening as people take new media platforms and new ways of reaching people and try to convey health and wellness information and in some cases collect data from it to improve things. We'll leave about 20 minutes at the end for Q&A. So know you'll get a chance as questions come up. We'll come back to you. I was going to ask Dr. Parikh to start off talking about this explosion of interest. You mentioned Healthy Nation is now getting 1 million views a day. That's in a fairly short time period, in this explosion of interest, particularly in health information conveyed on video. Can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing behind that and the pros and the cons of that?
Sure. So I have a unique perspective because I'm also a practicing physician, so I can see some of why this is happening from my patients and consumers. Nowadays, even in our medical system, we don't have that much time. When you have your doctor appointments, you have very limited time, and a lot of things are not able to be processed. Or when you're getting all this information thrown at you, especially if you get a new diagnosis, that it doesn't really resonate until you get home and you have time to really think about it. And then you wish you had asked your doctor all these questions. And also, now that we do have all this information, it's very easy if you have a cold to go on the internet and Google and say, I have back pain, and you get a whole list of things. So it's good and it's bad that, we have a lot of information, which is good because we have more educated patients now when they come in. If they use the right resources, it facilitates a great conversation. They can ask me questions about what they're concerned about, and really those 15, 20 minutes that we have together can be very productive. On the other hand, it could be a bad thing if they're coming in with information that's completely inaccurate and I have to spend those 15, 20 minutes to reassure them that this is not what's happening to them, and really try to gear them towards the right information. So that with all this information explosion, it is good and it's bad if it's used in the right way. So one of the things that we've done at Healthy Nation to help that is that we are the only video content health company out there that's URAC accredited, which means that 2 physicians have reviewed every material, every video that goes out. A registered dietitian reviews the nutrition and a doctor reviews it. So we really make sure everything's evidence-based and it's quality controlled. And so when I talk to my patients about going out there looking for good information, I try to tell them to look for information that's coming from something that's accredited. So URAC or HON. Another area to look at is looking at who's on the editorial board, who's making the decisions. Are these physicians? Where are they trained? And then the most important thing is always coming back and talking to your doctor about whatever you do read and what resources you are using. Academic societies, government societies like CDC, they have wonderful resources out there that are trusted. So as long as there's communication amongst the physician and the patients, it could be used in a wonderful way.
Okay, thanks. I have to tell you, I went on YouTube last night knowing we were coming in here, and I just put in the terms women and health, and I got 8.1 million videos. The top 2, and I'm not making this up, they were ads. One was, do you have cervical cancer? And the second one was, eat barnacles, which was a god. And I was like, oh my God. And then it went on, in completely seemingly random order from there. And I'll throw this out to you as a follow-up question, but anybody else to weigh in. Do you think we'll continue to see this a proliferation of media addressing health issues, or do you think it will then kind of expand and condense as people make choices about who is credible?
I think it's going to proliferate because I think there is a definite demand. I think people want questions, and everyone has opinions about health and what they think is the right thing. So I don't think it'll be coming down at any point, but hopefully with people being educated on trying to know what is true evidence-based health opinions and really talking to their doctor about it, I think that's going to be the most important, is educating the consumer on understanding what is really trusted health news and how to take that to your physician and work with it into your own health.
As our health declines, that demand will go up. And that's what we're seeing. As children are becoming obese more rapidly, we now know, and I'm sure the pediatrician, you're the pediatrician, I'm so sorry, can speak to that. But I just read an article yesterday, and I'm not saying the article was research-based, but talking about the actual age of a child that's 10 years old and has been obese their entire life is like that of a 30-year-old. And so as our health declines, as disease rises, as autoimmune disorders rise and symptoms of it, as depression rises, which we're seeing a rapid rise in the last 5 years, then there's going to be a huge demand, and we're going to see news media and Yahoo News and all these organizations discussing it. But what they discuss is key, because one article or one research out of Denmark does not make a fact true. And so what I do when I research my books, I get a full-time researcher and we look at everything. Do we put tuna in the book, or is it high in mercury? Do we do this or do we do that? And we have to weigh in all of those research articles and many times medical papers to make that decision. And it's a dicey game. It's a dicey game of where you are getting the true and actual information to take to your doctor and ask those questions. So it's interesting.
Dr. Hickey?
Well, I was going to say,
Address
sure, 2 things. First, the question that you posed about, is it going to proliferate? And I think just common sense. I don't think you have to be in healthcare to just realize that access to information is going to proliferate, just because everybody has access to a phone now, to a smartphone. We're talking about this in the green room. Where I work at USC, we also staff our residents train at the county hospital as well. So you see the extremes. You see from the incredibly wealthy to the incredibly resource strapped, but every patient comes in with a smartphone and everybody knows how to Google. So I think it's only going to proliferate because, 1, everyone has access to it. Number 2, it's easy. It's a lot easier to sit down and do a search for anything, anybody, any subject, than to actually get up, make a phone call, try to schedule an appointment with your physician, try to see if you can make it in to see any of us, or even to see a trainer. It's a lot easier to try to Google something. So I think it's only going to proliferate. Now, your second question was in terms of how do we
How do people distinguish
distinguish the two?
and how do you manage that quality versus
Yeah.
the proliferation and the ease?
Exactly. Now, the quality thing is a tricky subject, to be honest with you, because as an academic surgeon, part of my responsibility is to actually provide research. So we're constantly doing research studies. That's part of what we do for a living. People need to understand what is good research and what is bad research, and that's a complicated thing. You can say research says the following, but unless you actually understand how to structure a research project, how statistics work, then you really can understand, and when you compare one research over another research and to see if they're actually comparable, what is really good information, what is not. And that's a difficult thing. So it goes back to what my colleague was saying, that you really need to kind of check your resources, see if the people that are providing you information are actually the people that should be providing you information. Are they experts in the field? Where do they work? Where did they train? And if you really want to go one step further and look at the research, bring someone in who understands how research is conducted, that can actually tell you this is actually valid research, or this is just nonsense that was able to get through and published, because there is a completely different way to see research, understand research, once you actually know how to do statistics and how all of this comes through. It's hard. It's difficult. But you have to do your due diligence if you really want to look at evidence-based information.
Yeah, and it's interesting because research, what people don't realize is it's extreme research. So they're feeding a lab rat a 5,000 time dosage of a particular supplement or substance, such as some of the substance, red wine. Remember when that was quite a fad, when everybody was saying drink a glass of red wine for heart health every night? Well, red wine has some negative benefits or negative, if you are prone to depression, then you shouldn't be drinking red wine every night. If you're prone to mood instability, anxiety, if you're prone to a lot of different things, then you shouldn't be drinking red wine. But not one article discussed any of that. It was just a fad of articles all over the internet.
Yeah, and to close the loop on that, that's a good example. I actually know some of the people that were part of that research team, and the people that actually collaborated to that specific research were certain countries like Italy. No joke. I'm not trying
It
to.
makes total sense now.
Okay, but so that's what I'm trying to say. You don't understand the research you're reading. And so that translates into, yes, it's cardiac protective, but none of the studies really fully addressed, or at least the media didn't express the fact that we didn't discuss what it does to your liver, right? What it does to other parts of your body, like Jackie mentioned. And then unfortunately, then we, specifically for me, I've also had to take that information, then apply that to the pregnant patient, where there's research out there that says, well, a glass of wine every now and then doesn't hurt your unborn child, where truth be told, we don't have any evidence that says that that is okay. It's just that when you don't understand research and when you just commonly take whatever the media portrays, it's difficult to entertain. Just to kind of address what Jackie was saying with research and what's good, what's bad, and using that as an example.
Hey, Michelle, can we jump down to you, because you're kind of in the middle of this, what the media is reporting and how quality comes through in healthcare media. Can you talk about how you're trying to help people bridge these issues who are writing about health and reporting on it?
Yeah, and also there is a distinction. I mean, media is sort of this broad, amorphous term, and some people might be using it to describe advertising. Some people might be using it to describe a blogger who has no particular expertise. And then there's folks who are journalists, but they normally cover politics, and they're unfortunate enough to be handed the medical study, and they might screw up. And then there's people who really make a living out of writing about health, medicine, and health policy. And what we really do is try to work with, principally that audience of journalists, and help them really to understand these questions better, and to look at, well, what is the study? Is it a study on 3 mice? Is it a study on, 20 years worth of nurse study or something? And to have some rigor in their work. But just to take this all back to what we're doing with our website, Reporting on Health, typically when there's a professional association, doctors, lawyers, whatever, back in the day when everyone was just starting online communities, telecommunication companies started a lot of them. And the term that they used was walled garden to describe this idea that we only share all the content within this narrow area, and only the people who belong to our community, in this case, usually people who are subscribers, could get all the content. And the idea was to control them and keep them in. And those ideas have really, as we all know, fallen by the wayside, that the internet is kind of the Wild West, which is leading to all these things we're talking about. But one area where this wild garden idea has kind of persisted has been within professional organizations and their websites. So you'll find lawyers only talking to lawyers, behind firewalls, journalists, same story. And so the premise of reporting on health was to really turn that idea on its head and to see the value of having an exchange of ideas, much like what we're talking about right now, so that you have a pediatrician talking to a journalist, talking to a health policy expert, in our case, all through these blogs. So anybody can join Reporting on Health and become a member. And then we also have contributing writers whose content we solicit. So if you were to look on our homepage today, you would see a blog called Slow Medicine that's written by two doctors talking about a different approach to medicine that's really meant to not just seize on every new technology, but to take an evidence-based approach and see what if traditional medicine can work. You'd see a journalist writing about her project on mobile health, which is, again, one of these snazzy ideas. And is it really everything it's cracked up to be? Can it really address some of the key issues it's meant to address? And then, head of an obesity program at Children's Hospital Los Angeles talking about her understanding of the best ways to tackle obesity. So the idea is, through that cross-pollination, we can get better journalism and also a better understanding between these different constituencies. And one of the inspirations for us in doing this was the thinking of a guy named John Seely Brown, who back in the day was at Xerox PARC, which was a famous think tank that led to, in some ways, a lot of great technology companies and innovations. But his ideas started back in the day with Xerox, when it was principally a copier company, and when copy machines were the size of, at least half this room, perhaps, and being a technician was complex. And his idea was, rather than giving them manuals to understand how to do this, or having them sit through hours of classes, that where they did the best learning was through conversations in break rooms, at lunch, over the water cooler. And he's taken these ideas online to create online communities of learning. And that's what we're trying to do too with Reporting on Health, to try and get past some of these myths and misunderstandings and really improve both cross-pollination and the quality of the reporting that results.
Thanks. And do you see a follow-up question on that? Do you see more media produced by people who are specialists, or is more of it being covered in terms of medical developments by people who also cover many other topics and maybe come to you because they don't have that expertise?
Well, I think what we've seen in journalism in general, as we've seen a kind of dwindling of the number of people in newsrooms, and here I'm talking about people who set out to have a career as a journalist and maybe get a degree in journalism and so on, as opposed to a blogger who just came to it, is that there's been a real decline in specialty journalism. And so there's fewer people who get to cover medicine full-time or who get to cover health policy full-time. We've had reporters in our in-person training programs who cover the county, so therefore they cover the hospital. We've had business reporters who cover medicine and wine. And so through our site and we have webinars too, that are offered online. We're providing ways for people to get information who don't have the luxury of, diving in full time. So there is a kind of a need for more resources for the reporters, even who are professionally trained, but who have many demands right now.
Great, thanks. I want to switch gears a little bit and kind of look at this from another direction with Natalie and Jackie. You both are very passionate about being entertaining enough, being engaging enough that you can get people to change behavior and not just read about or consume or watch or listen to health information and medical information, but really act on it. Can you each talk about that a little bit and then open it up to anyone?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for people like Jackie, then there wouldn't be people like me, because she opened up a lot of entertaining content for TV and people got engaged by that. And that really is, I think, a lot of the genesis behind creating compelling content for health and wellness. from my perspective, what we're trying to do is create scalable content. We're dealing with weight loss on a very, very large, it's large scale. We know that the country is 2/3 of Americans are overweight and obese, and we want to provide solutions for them. Simple, easy to follow solutions. And I think Jackie and I are totally in agreement with that. And so how do you do that? You do it through engaging television. And, our belief, at least from my team's perspective, is that we all watch TV. We have the same people that watch Game of Thrones also want to see engaging content when they talk about health and wellness and fitness and weight loss and recipes. We watch the food channels. We all have TVs. We all watch content. We all want to be entertained. We want to laugh. We want to have a good time. So for us to think that we can put some sort of boring content up there and telling you how to diet, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And I think that any of my colleagues here would agree with that. And so what I do is a little different. It is evidence-based. Our product is evidence-based as well. But we use that, and then we apply our entertainment background. How do we make it fun? How do we make it entertaining? And most importantly, how do we make it simple? How do we make it simple so that you know what you need to do and you can really get it done and enjoy doing it? And that's going to get people to watch the content that we all want to create and get our messages across, whether it's medical information or weight loss or, responsible journalism. I think it's all the same. I think that's what we all agree on here.
There's been a shift in the industry and entertainment. When I did my show on Bravo, which was called Workout, we did that for 3 seasons. And then I did a show for them called Thintervention, which was much more stronger takeaway. So I was the executive producer of that. I made sure that we had like 10 solid tips. We worked out twice each segment. I mean, I killed the show, but because we got the feedback from Bravo's demographic, and they didn't want to see people working out. They didn't want to see hot people, especially working out. That is the truth. It's really interesting. And the success of my first show was so successful because I think their tagline was 80% drama, 20% fitness. So clearly what I was selling and selling very well at that time was the lifestyle. They came to me as an already existing successful business owner that was self-made without a college education, that I had become a self-made millionaire by 21 by sales, really, just by selling my wares, which was the cellular industry at that time. I later discovered fitness and then, of course, tried to be the leader in that community. And Bravo came to me and said, do you want to do a show? Which was kind of unheard of at that time. Usually everybody is trying to do that. But what was interesting is we were selling the lifestyle. So it wasn't just my relationships and the gym lifestyle and me dealing with the trainers and their drama. And I still have people to this day saying, I started working out because of you. They didn't say that with my other show, even though the other show was health-based. They said that drama show is why I started working out and I got off the couch, or I became a trainer because of that show. That's interesting. So you're completely right. We have to be very careful about how we disseminate this information. Morning shows aren't doing fitness content anymore. That's another interesting thing. They are doing food. So nutritionists are doing well on the morning shows. Fitness instructors are not doing well on the morning shows. I know that because we're doing a media tour right now. And it's changed over the last couple of years. People don't want to see fit people first thing in the morning, guilting them and making them feel disgusted about their day. They don't want to see it. So it's, collectively, we have to think of, okay, that's an interesting psychology. That's interesting. Now, how do we all within our fields work within that realm and that kind of new interesting psychology and still help people help themselves to get healthy,
One of the things that we found really interesting, getting iPad-based and phone-based health screening to the most disadvantaged girls in the country, is that they really loved the fact that it said girls health screen. Not just, it was targeted towards them. They wanted to interact and feel empowered by questions that were worded in a way that they would have worded. Also, I'm particularly aware of both media and the impact of IT. The beginning of my career was doing an hour-long A&E documentary with Bill Curtis called Women in Prison. He said to me, Leslie, nobody's going to watch this. This is women in prison. It's tragic. It's sad. It was the most watched documentary that whole year. So I think that media journalism really underrate how much as women, how much as human beings, we don't want to just see the tragic side of the people who aren't at our social table, but we want to learn about them and we want to see them empowered. I think that health justice is very much linked to social justice, which is linked to health journalism. And I've worked a lot with Kaiser Health News. We just published a very academic report on how every child who's incarcerated has their health insurance removed or suspended. I think that we fall into being either often too academic for the general public, or else I think the Dr. Oz controversy has brought up the issue of not credible enough, sort of faddish. In our case, the health screening that we deliver, it took 8 years to develop it because it was a platinum designed research study from which we developed the questions that these girls answer. That's very expensive. And most low-income, disadvantaged populations don't merit the kind of research and the cost outlay that it takes to identify their health problems. And that's one of the reasons why health journalism hasn't covered our population very much. And one of the reasons why the general public, nobody I sit next to on a plane, when they say, what do you do? I say, well, we get healthcare to 500,000 incarcerated girls. They go, what? Is that really happening in this country? So I think more of a marriage between online education, physicians, fitness, wellness, health journalism, and the people like us who are on the front lines essentially doing battlefield health assessments with a completely invisible population.
That speaks to how it opens up health media to additional populations. Preeti?
Yeah, just one other, just to build on what everyone's been saying. One of the series that we do is called True Champions, and it goes with people who are suffering either with depression. We have done one on multiple sclerosis, and it's done really well because what it does is it shows how it empowers someone who has depression. They share with their audience of what they've been doing to empower themselves and how they've been getting through it. And someone who's suffering from depression can really connect with them because they, oh, okay, they actually know what I'm feeling. They know that some days are really bad, some days are really good. And it's been an amazing series. And that's a way that we've also been able to educate this population and found that they really relate sometimes to somebody else. It's kind of like a support group, because you relate, you know that they're not just a talking head. It's not just a doctor telling you this is what you have to do, but someone who's actually going through it and providing tips that way. This is the way you can help yourself. Here are some great resources. Find yourself a support group. This is what helped me. And it's been a phenomenal way to get those patients informed.
So I would like to give you the flip side of all of this. So you've heard of one, like kind of like the common thread here that documentaries like other like reality shows like what you just described of what you do, it's more, all of them, if you will, are kind of reality, right? These are not syndicated. I apologize now because I don't know the terms for like regular faux programs that we watch. So you can either have something very positive because we know that this is what people are watching today. If it's not Game of Thrones, it's some reality TV show. So it's amazing. I think it's great that you were able to portray an opportunity to have people have an insight to a very protected group, because unfortunately, adolescents and incarcerated patients, we can't touch in terms of research. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't write an IRB right now that would get approved in any place in this country that would give me access to her population. And so I have to extrapolate what they need just the best I can. I can't find research. It's very difficult. So what she's doing is amazing. Number two, what Jackie was able to pull off within a drama type of reality setting is also amazing, because there's people that can tell her, because of that show that gave us an insight to what your trainers go through, a day in the life for you guys, actually got me off the couch. But then there's other reality TV shows that bring people to my consultation because they don't look a certain way. They can't afford to look a certain way. They're not sure if they should do a sex tape to get on television. They want to get on TV so bad that the thought of possibly being pregnant at 17, 16, 15 is actually exciting. So that's where media, healthcare, and just responsibility to society, we have to be very careful, because you're looking at people that realize that and have done everything they can to show a different side, but it's something we need to consider, because as human beings, we're nosy. We love the gossip. So we love to see people's lives and see what they do and what they don't do. And it's just finding a way to provide information that actually works on at the end product, making people feel better, not worse, feel included, not excluded, making them motivated to actually do something good, like exercise, or actually see what it's like to have a certain healthcare condition and be motivated to get more information, or to see what it's like to actually be incarcerated and not be overlooked. It's one of the most popular, it's a population that is really overlooked. So it's one of the things that I personally want to get across to all of you. If you have the opportunity to do what some of these women have done, I know, please do so, because it's difficult when the spin is a little bit different. You can have really harmful effects. And we see women with depression. I mean, Jackie could speak to that more, and you probably see more people with depression that you have to motivate than you would, as a pediatrician, but depression, suicidal, low self-esteem.
Let me ask you and go back to the discussion in the green room and understanding people don't want to be careful not to use names and so forth, but all of you talked about the impact of celebrity health and celebrity medical statements and people following what their celebrities are doing or talking about, or what they think the celebrities are doing or talking about. Let me just toss that out, because it was an engaging discussion, and share that here. We are in LA. It's a fact of the culture. How does that play in good ways and bad?
We're in LA, but celebrity obsession has gone off the charts. I mean, there's such a celebrity obsession. As our economy, as the middle class lowers, I see the celebrity obsession, or the obsession with great wealth, is heightened. I come from a middle class background. We didn't care what the Joneses had. We were comfortable. Everybody had clothes that season and so nobody had these issues. But now there's such a disparity, and I'm seeing as that lower class or the middle class is really lowering, and people are financially, and there's more single moms, and that there's a connection with health and wellness and finances. We know that. But here's the thing. Celebrities have, I can tell you, because I've trained many of them, that they have a team of people, and I mentioned this in the green room. And it's a little maddening to me when I see somebody who has, say, 9 million, 10 million followers and great, can make great change if they choose to, talk about being on a juice cleanse for 10 days and that's how they get their body. When I know, and it's 100% true, that they've got personal chefs, that they have a team of fitness experts, one for Pilates, one for yoga when they're in the mood for that, one for, spinning, and so on and so forth. So there's a team of beauty experts that prop them up, the majority, not all, but the majority. And so it's not a realistic vision of weight loss or what's realistic for a woman to achieve in this day and age. So I wish they would stop that. I'm just kidding. They're never going to stop. That's why they're celebrities.
Yeah.
It's just that then it takes the responsible people like everybody here to say, perhaps juice cleanses are not the way. We need more nutrients in that. Certainly in prenatal care, we can't have that. But there's a whole foods diet is the better way, and disciplining yourself with, at least 2 vegetables, 2 to 3 vegetables, 2 fruits a day, some lean proteins, preferably non-factory farmed, and things like that. That just having a whole balanced kind of zone principle. The zone works, people. A 40-30-30 diet works in terms of just overall health. Not necessarily weight loss. There can be more extremes, but overall health. Does that answer speak to your question about celebrity, or maybe somebody else should take that over?
I think, no, you nailed it. We were talking about this, saying the responsibility or what the reality of it is, because people see people in the media now. You're constantly seeing it. It's instant, and you think that you can achieve this if only. But the truth of the matter is, like she said, it takes a village for some of these people to look the way they do. And I can tell you from experience, without saying much, it also takes a great surgeon to make people look the way they
Mhm.
do. And if we can't say that, we can't say that. I don't think you can. I think it's great that you do say it, to say, hey, reality it's not as easy as you think to look like this. Then maybe some of the pressure would be off the adolescent population. Some of the pressure would be off the single parent, the recently divorced woman, all these kinds of things where people have the wrong idea of what reality really is.
Go ahead, Leslie.
Absolutely. And I'd like to address, partly because I am a first generation immigrant, naturalized citizen from Panama, took the Pledge of Allegiance in Spanish at 6 when I came here. So the issue of people of color and the difference in body image and access to healthy foods and healthy living is really important. And 2/3 of the girls who are incarcerated right here in LA, and this is the largest incarcerative setting for girls in the country right here, are Hispanic Latina girls. And very often Latinas have a different view of how they want to look. African Americans have another view. It blends together in the media, but the media image of beauty is triply unhealthy for disadvantaged young women of color. I think Michelle Obama, being so strong and beautiful and focusing on food, has taken us a long way in that regard. But I think that issues of gender, ethnicity, color, and economic status have everything to do with how women choose their health care.
Well, it's like there's two body types that are very popular in today's culture. There's the Nicki Minaj body type, which is a very small waist and a more large round booty. Then there is the supermodel body type, like the Giselles, that we still see ads from constantly as being the height of beauty in our culture. So we've got two different messages and two body types, and there's really no in-betweens for that. There's really no in-betweens for that. I got to tell you, women are very intimidated by women that are muscular. And, there's like a chapter in my book, Strong is the New Skinny. I'm sure you guys have all heard that being thrown around by different people. But we now know that muscle is such a miracle for the body. Like it does so much for the body in terms of health, de-aging, all kinds of things, and certainly weight loss. But, but women in general are intimidated by muscular women. So even the CrossFits and the different fitness trends and the fitness fads we're seeing are just a minute, tiny percentage of what women are desiring. So we really have to see more women with different varying types, different colors, and it represented in media big time, or we're going to be in big trouble with self-esteem, starting at a very young age where kids are starting to question. We didn't question our self-esteem until we were about 13. Kids now are questioning their self-esteem at 7, 8. So, it's an issue that I think the media is forced to start addressing and representing a little bit better, probably advertising, but certainly the media too, instead of just constant pictures of two body types.
I was going to say, and I can honestly tell you, it would give women, young girls, everybody, the permission to breathe, to actually take a deep breath and go, okay, because it's true. It's way better for you to be a muscular type body for your overall health than the two extremes that we're constantly seeing. So I couldn't agree more. I'm seeing so many kids and women that just feel terrible about themselves because they don't look a certain way.
So let me challenge you a little bit on this. If you're coming at this from a media perspective and a digital media perspective, now you can see what your consumers, whether they're going to your website or Healthy Nation or your weight loss site, once it launches, you can see what they're using. You have a feedback loop in the data. Can each of you talk about, how you're using that, how you look at what your users and viewers and readers are consuming and adjust around that. Preeti, you had talked about the boom and how-to information and the hunger for that and actionable steps. So I'm not looking for any one answer, but I think that's interesting. If you're in media at all, you have this ability now to look at the data and then where do you follow it and where do you not follow it if it's leading somewhere you think is not productive for people in a health sense.
Do you want me to?
So why don't we start with Preeti and then
Mhm.
come back?
So one of the things that we've seen a trend of is that people love, a lot of them do like tips or actionable items that they can actually do something with. So in 6 to 8 weeks, we're actually coming out with apps where if they're going out to eat at a restaurant, how to eat healthy. So they can pull that up because we've seen trends and they have a shorter attention span. Sometimes they want a little bit more immediate information. So even with our cooking shows, there've been a lot of questions about, how to blanch vegetables, like simple things like that, where they really want the how-to steps. So we've been doing a lot of our content development now on that, where it's shorter pieces, more how-to, where they can really get what they need. Also, if they go grocery shopping, our app's going to have just healthy options. And if they don't want to do sugar, what's an alternative? Maybe you could do, maple syrup or honey. So we're going to try to give them the tools that they need to be able to do the next steps of getting their healthy lifestyle and nutrition. And we're also, our overall goal too is to create where they can log what they've eaten, how much they've exercised, to put everything into one system. So we're working on that. So in the other flip side, one of the areas we had one content that was it was a special series on Asian food and comfort food, where people wasn't very healthy initially when it first came out, and we were seeing the people really had a lot of interest still in it. And it was, the numbers were really high, but it was really going against our mission. So the way we're turning it around is we're actually coming up with a series of healthy comfort foods and healthy Asian food. So kind of we see that there's a need that people really do at the end of the day. You really are craving like mac and cheese, or you want a tomato soup, or you want that pad thai noodles, but how can we do it in a way that's healthy for them? So we took that information, the data, and try to flip it now, creating content around foods that they want, but maybe, giving them ingredients to make it less caloric and less unhealthy.
Great.
It's really about making the medicine go down easier in I think with everybody here, because I know that when I make programs, you've got to get somebody, first of all, a change has to happen quickly. When you tell somebody this is going to take a year, nobody, I don't know many people, including myself, that are going to stick with that. A year, okay? But if you've got a progressive diet or progressive weight loss, just a progressive system of either working out, eating right, or just some sort of system, a program, 3-day detox, which leads into a maintenance program of lifetime of eating. But you have to have like a progressive, fun system that they can see the light at the end of the tunnel, or it just doesn't work as well. Very few Americans have the mentality to say, let me buckle down. Took me 20 years to put on this weight, 30 years to put it on. Now it's going to take me a year and I'm expecting it. I've never heard that. Never in my life have I heard that. So everything now has to be phase 1, 2, 3, progressive eating. Do this, this, and this for your, your weight loss. That's just in my industry. Are you hearing that? And I mean, not to speak to you because you're very specific in what you do.
Well, not that specific. We address broad health and mental health issues. We really see, maybe partly because it's literally a captive population, but we find that the girls, terrible thing to say, but it's true. You would. I'm trying to get her to come in. I'm trying to get her to come in and create. I wouldn't call it a fitness pro. I would call it. I've learned to be very political. I would call it a wellness program because foundations really like wellness. But I think that for young girls, that they have an innate desire to be healthy. They really do. And if you give them actual food choices that are right in front of them, that are better for them, they will take it. There are 2 juvenile detention centers that have been forced. These are kid jails that have been forced to turn into kind of organic kitchens because of the consumer demands of the children. So it isn't just our market. I mean, I looked at what happened in the Middle East with Egypt and people rising up and asking for what they want. I think that there's another function of media and internet and new media, which is that these girls are not only taking control of their own health, they're driving change in their environments. So if they can have 1 or 2 steps from a terrible diet to a good diet, and they love exercise. I mean, when they can play basketball, if you go to a boys' facility, they have great hoops, they have all these advanced sports programs. They often don't have any programs for the girls. It's part of the disparity. So when you give girls hoops and pools and running shoes, every kid who gets arrested in this country, many of them have to put on plastic underwear and wear very unhealthy shoes. So, you know, give them decent shoes, give them something where they can feel success. And these kids can turn around if they have the experience of success with diet and fitness in a week or 2.
It just feels good to make good decisions for yourself. Yes. And you know, the question I've asked myself for many years is, how do you build self-esteem? And it's by setting a small goal and achieving it on a daily basis. I mean, this is a good way to build self-esteem. If you set a goal of, I've got to lose 30 pounds by Christmas, you know, and you wake up every morning and you don't drink 2 liters of water a day that I've prescribed, and that you don't eat a whole fruit or a whole vegetable that day, then at the end of the day, you're just not feeling that great about yourself. Well, today was another day that I messed up and I failed. So it's really making these small changes in your diet and exercise program from my standpoint, and achieving them, such as simply as I'm going to drink a liter of water today. That is a small change. And with the young women that are incarcerated, I mean, clearly there have been self-esteem issues. Yeah.
1 in 4 are on psychotropic or neuroleptic
Right.
drugs, and often unsupervised. We have several girls whose hair has fallen out because they've been put on Lexapro and they're really too young to have been put on Lexapro. Variety of other things.
You
but
know,
yes.
listening to you though, you could say that that is a bigger population in America.
Yes.
I wouldn't even know that you were talking about women that were incarcerated, because I think young women are having these issues of mental instability and everything, and it comes from self-esteem. So how do we kind of incorporate and start teaching self-esteem at a young age, besides just representing it in the media? It's, again, making a healthful choice is just carrying an apple in your backpack.
I think, I mean, we saw another thing that really struck me about helping people with their health. Again, I'm talking about all the things that nobody wants to talk about. Because these girls have had so many traumatic experiences, we can't necessarily get into the treatment of their trauma, but we can acknowledge it. And again, in finding a disadvantaged population, answering questions about their health, even having somebody ask them about their mental state and about what happens to them is tremendously validating. And the task of adolescence is skill mastery. So we have a wonderful example of mastering the skill of caring for your body. We also found that 70% of the incarcerated girls across the country had had at least 1 school failure. Education is absolutely key for these kids. So all of these health and wellness and education really do come together.
Yeah,
I want to open this up to the audience if I could, because I said we'd leave enough time and then we can come back to this. But I want to make sure anybody who's got a question for any of our panelists has a chance. Yes, go ahead. Right here.
Fitness program that's been very long time. So it's like totally fit kids, and kind of it's health and nutrition and rest and also friendship. So that's something that goes with the social part of it. And friendship sometimes and self-esteem is just encouraging others that you don't even have to reach a gold big. You're valuable.
Yeah.
You know, there's something just intrinsically valuable about life. What I wanted to know was as I developed my program, because I want to do little webisodes, so it's a media based. It'll have like a little fitness component, and the puppets are the characters. Anyway, you know, like they'll go shopping or something. Something you can teach mom and dad. Something that'll engage them at their level. Not kind of teachy, but hidden. You know, kind of. What's a really good resource specifically for kids fitness? I'm a personal trainer, but it's adult fitness. You know, I'm certified in adult certification. I don't have a children's fitness certification. And so I was wondering if you have a good source specifically to speak to those things. Kids fitness. I'm talking the very youngest age. You know, kindergarten, first, second, third grade.
Pediatrician.
Yes, I'm nutrition. No. No, I know the Clinton Foundation was doing something before they were doing a whole program, and I can, the American Academy of Pediatrics also does stuff school-based. They do a lot of school health education, so we can definitely, I can get you connected with some of those people where maybe that would be something they can incorporate in their curriculum, because there is a huge push in trying to get, now that physical education also has been cut in a lot of public school education, that they're really trying to find other ways to encourage fitness. And that's one of my big, issues too with when I have patients. I have a gamut of patients who are very wealthy. They can afford every after school activity, and I have those patients who are medicated and can't. And so finding them the resources, so that would be something that they can do at home, that the parents. And so, but it's about getting that information out and that resources. The other one, there's I was talking about Boys and Girls Club or YMCA, those after school, like underserved communities. They have these after school communities where they do a lot of aftercare for kids, especially the low socioeconomic. So that may be something that they may be able to incorporate in their programs. But so we can definitely talk afterwards too, and I can give you more information.
Yes, right here in front.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you see your site in competition with the other video sites like YouTube or WebMD? And was that a concern or a problem? But as a startup,
Yeah.
how do you get people to your site?
So I think there's two things that I think differentiate us between like WebMD and YouTube. Is actually, you can find a lot of our videos on YouTube. It's one of our distribution partners. Is that we're a video-based company. That is really, our content is all video-based. We do have text that will go along with it, whereas WebMD is very text-based. So it's very different in that way. Our focus is, we really believe that video is the way to go. It really shows, I think showing how people to do things to people, like I was talking about the recipes of how to cut a vegetable, or we have this great video on for children, how to give medications to a baby or a young child, and how to measure it, and actually showing it and demonstrating it. There's been a lot of literature that imagery really helps with health literacy. So we do that, but we also have the text along with it. We have a transcript and summary, but we really are focused on video. And the other big difference between us is that we're not just a destination site. Where WebMD, you have to Google and go to their site. The way you can get our information is we're partnered with Yahoo, AOL. We really believe our mission is to get the information out there. So our goal is not to just be a destination site, but to create content where it can be seen on multiple different platforms and partners. So that's how we're differentiating ourselves. And then every single video also versus YouTube versus us is that everything is medically approved. We're URAC accredited. So two doctors, physicians see it. So that also differentiates us from when Ms. Cross was saying that she had Googled women's health and YouTube. You can get 8 million hits. But what hopefully will differentiate us is that ours has been vetted, and it's all evidence-based. So that's how we're really trying to differentiate ourselves from our competitors.
So people find you mostly through Google?
They can find us through Google or through on the Yahoo homepage or AOL homepage. We have on the site, some of our videos will show up, and a lot of SEO searches. Yeah, if you Google us, it will come up. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
So the last couple of years, there's been this incredible growth in digital tools for health, like wearables, now the Apple Watch, Fitbits, also tens of thousands of health apps on phones and stuff. How do you guys think about how that fits into the media picture and how to really harness that for girls, especially in the health context?
Well, speaking to girls directly in terms of like apps, for me, it has been a huge blessing to have like a period tracker on an app, right? It's private, it's easy to use. We're constantly asked by people, what do you recommend? Who do you recommend? What do you recommend as the best apps? What site do you recommend for the best videos? You know, what book, you know, simple things. We get asked all these things. I think it's huge. It's huge to be able to use these apps for health. Where for girls' periods, I won't speak to the exercise stuff. I'll let those I'll pass that on down. But definitely for women that are ovulating, you know, if you're trying to get pregnant, it's a great thing to have an app now. So it really has revolutionized for me what I do for a living. Also for prenatal care, we were talking about this. When you have an app that reminds you what you need to be doing, X amount of weeks you can expect this, X amount of months you should expect this. So I think it's a very, very big contribution to what we do for a living.
Yeah, I was going to say tracking is, I mean, without a doubt, it's the number one most important tool that we use now. Both tracking what goes in, nutrition, what you can eat, how many calories you get, exercise. So it's a very important part of any responsible, sensible program now. All of these things, wearables, Fitbits, apps, logging, tracking, as well as watching content. All of it's an ecosystem that I think is really important for the whole package. People want all of that information, feedback, and people want to know that they've done well. They want to see at the end of the day, wow, I've succeeded. Look at that. I ate fewer calories than I thought, and I've done more exercise than I believed I did. So
It's putting me out of business. I always used to say that the number one reason to get a trainer is accountability. So now there's an accountability factor there that's really good. It's actually really good for our industry and overall. And you know, my brother gained weight just on a personal level. He gained quite a lot of weight and was morbidly obese for a time. And he was always fit in high school and active. And then he had 3 kids and things just went a little down. But anyway, he started using Fitbit. And it's the only thing you would think that me as his sister, no, I mean, not for years. And he started using Fitbit recently, like over the last 4 months, and has lost 20 pounds because he needed that accountability. He needed to figure the puzzle out for himself. You know, he needed to say, okay, this is what I'm entering in. These are the calories. I can have that glass of milk or whatever. He likes milk. I can have that glass of milk. I can have that bit of cheese now because I know exactly what my calories have been today. So I'm able to have this allowance, and that really works for him. So I think it works for the majority of people out there. Wouldn't work for me because I'm too rebellious, but it works for the majority.
Yeah, as a I was gonna just
Go
one
ahead.
quick- sorry, one quick
Please
thing is
finish.
just as a physician too, one of the biggest struggles I see for my patients is really having the tools, and I think that's why I got into this too in this area, because they know that they have to lose weight and they know they have to exercise, but they just don't feel like they have a way to track. And these apps have been phenomenal because they've been able to track and see and really empower themselves so that they're in control and they can really make the right decisions for themselves. So I think they're fantastic.
And remember, they're private, and that's what people like.
Yes. And well, and that's
Some, well,
that's an issue that it's an uncomfortable issue which has to be addressed with apps like ours that have sensitive and confidential and anonymous medical information on them. So you have to be really careful that this information can't be accessed by anybody but that particular person. Let me just give you a couple of examples. When kids get out of detention, if they have a phone, they can be geo-tracked. So they can be located wherever they are, whatever app they're using. And that might not be a good thing for them. They might not be doing anything wrong. But also their confidential information can be subpoenaed sometimes by the courts. So it just has to be very protected. And in terms of girl-specific kinds of apps, the questions that we ask them and the way that they're asked have to be vetted by the girls themselves. So that's why our research took so long, because we interviewed, all told, about 5,000 girls, and they vetted the questions. And so how the wording, the imagery, the data, all that stuff is important, but confidentiality is something that's key.
Can we get to the back on this side of the room, and then we'll hop across to that.
Hi, my name is Elena, and I'm a writer. And I am partnering with a fitness company, and they are featuring an article that I'm writing about sexual assault and campus rape next week. And this is a topic that I think that really needs to be addressed in our society in terms of how do women recover from these types of experiences? How do we empower women? And I don't feel like I've seen a lot of stories or outlets in the media. And what I want to do is start, I mean, I hope that this article, will be shared and kind of starts a conversation, but I want to start like a video series or something. And I guess my question for you guys, or for you ladies, for you women, is what kind of resources would you recommend to me that I look into, to make sure that I'm creating these videos and, kind of similar to the ones that you created with depression. And what kind of outlets should I pursue to make sure that this is really effective so that we can, make an impact in this population?
I'll just speak to people you should probably talk to. Are you doing that locally? Like, are you trying to have people interviewed? Are you trying to?
Well, I was going to start with like tips from my own experience because I myself am a survivor, but I want to interview as well.
So there's a violence intervention program. It's really been like basically the gold standard for how these cases are dealt with. It's actually here at LA County. The person in charge of that, I'll tell you later. Actually, I'll tell you in private. You can talk to her. She's a phenomenal physician, and she is all over the world talking about just what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think if you can reach out to some of those not-for-profit organizations that focus on abuse and these issues for women, they usually have a great network. This is some things that we actually do too when we did for diabetes. Actually, we reached out to like the Diabetics Association and found they have a whole catalog of resources of. You can either talk to like specialists, like physicians, or you can also talk to survivors or people who are interested. Like we worked with a blogger he's very active in his community in the diabetics, and he has a huge following. And so we actually partnered with him and did a whole thing about how to check your blood sugar and did a whole video series with him. And then he got it out to all of his people that follow him, and then the word of mouth spread, and then it got to that focused audience that we were looking for. So I think I would definitely reach out to some of, you may know better, I don't know the LA area so much, but looking for those organizations that help these women, and they definitely are great resources to start with, and they could probably set you up with either survivors and also with maybe other resources that you could talk about and tips and things like that.
Can we go across the aisle? Yes.
Hi, my name is Jane Alkiller, and I've been a long-time content producer, and recently I became the media liaison for a small publishing company. And we're about to introduce a new book called Being a Woman Surgeon. 60 women surgeons share their stories. And so aside from they did get the editor, Preeti John, was interviewed on NPR and in Baltimore for International Women's Day. But I don't know, I don't have the expertise in my past experience to know where to not roll out a book like this, that it's all about women doctors, women striving to get into a difficult job, how long it takes to get there. And aside from Book Alert and the usual book places, which you don't always get placed into, I wonder if any of you have suggestions of how I
Can I quickly address this?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so do you have any kind of funding for publicity?
Yeah, just money.
Okay, so everything is done digitally now. You're not going to get on TV shows with this subject matter at this time, but definitely a digital campaign. Facebook ads are really effective. that you're doing, and then aligning to a couple of more media savvy surgeons and trying to get them on television to discuss this. So, you know, a couple of women that would be willing to do more of a media campaign and be the face of it, and getting them on, you know, Dr. Oz and on different morning shows and The Talk and so on and so forth as experts in their field, and obviously get your talking points really solid for TV, because TV talking points are very different than digital talking points. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's just kind of how we always try to roll out a new book in an arena.
I think you should also consider college campuses, undergraduate, like big centers, because a book like that would have been, if I didn't have like the family pushing me to do it, something like that might have inspired me to do
that's
it.
true.
So if you hit the educational centers, when, like, you know, you hit college, most people are placed with a counselor. So having those books available, something like that available at big college campuses would be really appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate it. Thank you for doing that.
Another couple resources that I would definitely look into also is there's like American Medical Students Association called AMSA. The American Medical Association also reaches out to college students. They have a section for college students, young professionals. And then I'm sure there's a surgical
There's
society.
a surgical society there's a women's surgical society where you can actually get PR along with ACOG. So they should let everybody know, but
yeah, they should get the word out too, because they also do a lot of go on college campuses, and they do a lot of recruitment in that way and support women. And there's a lot of push in the medical society now too about giving support to women. So I would definitely reach out to those professional societies, because they also they tweet out to their constituents. We have Facebook. There's a physicians mommy group, I don't like on Facebook too now, is where it's just all these support networks are coming out for women in medicine. And I would definitely reach out to these professional societies, and they can get the word out, because I think it would be great for also people who are in medicine or in medical school trying to decide what they want to go into to read this book and inspire them, and then getting them at the college level, like you were saying. So
I would actually like to see it if you don't mind.
We have time for one more question, and you had been waiting patiently.
It's not really a question, it's what Jackie had to say regarding celebrities, and we idolize them and what we're doing. And I remember when Rosie O'Donnell kept adopting children and kept adopting children, but at the same time she made a statement telling young teenagers and people, you have to realize I have 6 nannies, I have a lot of supportive care, and just don't go out and have kids as a single parent. And she supplemented it, and she was one of the few people that did say that and made that statement to her credit. So the people got a realization that it wasn't, you know, oh, this is cool, you know, just go and the money will appear in the money tree out back or something. And so that I always admired her for doing that, because the behind the scenes is what you're saying. I worked a lot with celebrities, and what they have and what we think they have are two different.
Yeah, it's like the change. If celebrities would be more responsible with their information, like Rosie clearly was, the change would be phenomenal for our society, for the entire society, because they drive what we want to see, what we're interested in, what we read, what we watch on TV, everything, and all of our entertainment. So it would be nice if they said, you know, I'm doing this, like I said, I'm doing this juice cleanse, but I also have a private chef and 2 trainers that come to my house and they work with me, and I just get my tennis shoes on and we go, you know. It's like, you know, so, you know, maybe have another alternative, or here's 10 tips. Here's 10 tips. They could have their publicity come up with 10 easy tips that you can do on a $20 budget a day. You know, so they can do that flip side. They have that power to do it, and it'd be wonderful if they took more responsibility for the average American.
My cousin always says the grass on the other side is always greener and the water bill's higher. It's kind of the same thing. They have all that, and they have the high, you know, if we could just get motivated and do it ourselves in small increments, we can have the same thing, if not better, and better self-esteem. Because they can't probably do it on their own. We can do it on our own.
Yeah,
On
that's
that
right.
note, I'm going to ask you all to join me in thanking this panel, which has been wonderful. Thank you very much. And we'll be up here for a few minutes if anyone has questions.